Let's go right into this. We got CNBC contributor Jared Bernstein, our great friend, former chief economist for Vice President Biden, and another great friend, New York Republican Congresswoman Nan Hayworth. Nan Hayworth, I want to begin with you, and I'm not going to pick on you, but I want to begin with you on this. See the Bob Turner win in Queens. It's the first time since the 1920s a Republican won in that election. A lot of that was about Israel, but a lot of that was about jobs and the economy. When you look at the polls, there is a full-scale revolt against Obamonomics. Nan, my thought is a simple one. I think you all Republicans should rip up the Obama stimulus package. You know it isn't going to work. You know it'll never be paid for. And why don't you start fresh with your own complete different option? What's your thought on that?
Well, essentially, Larry, we have been presenting our different options throughout this year in the 112th Congress. So you're absolutely right. We do have a bond with the president in terms of advocating for tax relief and for regulatory reform. There's no question about that commonality. But of course, on so many specifics, we have opportunities that unfortunately the president's jobs proposal does not address or in fact counters. And we have an entire portfolio of proposals that we've made. And you can look all the way back to when we voted to repeal the Affordable Care Act.
But I want to get it out there. You got yourself this so-called stimulus plan. The tax hikes are off the table. Everybody knows that. It'll never be paid for.
Right.
These year tax cuts won't work at all. There's a steep tax cliff facing everybody in 2013.
Absolutely.
Why don't you just take a clean sheet of paper, Nan Hayworth, and start marking it up and put down. Don't wait for the deficit committee. Don't wait for next year. Don't wait for the next millennium. Do it right now. The country is against Obamonomics. When are the Republicans going to step into the breach and offer their new? Yeah, we're going to get you in a minute. I'm just cross-examining my pal Nan Hayworth. When are you going to give some real torque? What is the GOP alternative? You need your own plan.
Well, you're absolutely right. We are very mindful of the fact that we have to promote our own plan. The next phase, the next big vote that we'll have will be for a balanced budget amendment. I understand exactly where you're coming from in terms of actually creating one omnibus document, if you will. And we might indeed decide to go that route. But we can certainly point to what we've been doing throughout the year. And we have to engage with the American public anew to let them understand we're proposing a very different tack. We're proposing that we not increase taxes on anyone. We want growth and we want jobs, and we can increase revenues by hiring.
Can I respond?
Jared Bernstein, every poll shows Obamonomics is dead. I mean, every poll, and you just lost this Queens election. Jared, you got to have something new. Your side's got to have something new. Right. You run out of silver bullets.
Okay, so you raise a lot of great points, and let me, with respect, talk to some issues that the Congresswoman raised as well. You want to talk polls. Congress, and I'm sure this doesn't include Representative Hayworth, but Congress is polling at 13% approval. If you pull out the measures, when people say stimulus, they don't even know what you're talking about. They think you're talking about TARP half the time. If you pull out infrastructure investment, if you pull out a payroll tax cut that battens your paycheck, if you pull out incentives to hire people, those all poll, and these are CNN polls I've seen today on this very station, those all poll way north of 60%. That's one thing. Now, here's the other poll.
I just saw
let me just say, Larry, let me finish.
I just saw a Bloomberg poll that said 51% are opposed to the stimulus.
Yeah, I think it's probably even worse than that. If you say the stimulus, if you look at the individual measures, they poll in the 60s and the 70s. I'll send you the numbers if you don't believe. But here's the other thing. We've taken so much off the table, Democrats and Republicans, that there's nothing there. The reason Congress is polling at 13% is precisely because of the discussion that you and the Congresswoman are having. The ideas that you're put are simply not going to go anywhere. It's just more partisan bickering. And the House is where the House is. The Senate is Democratic. The President is a Democrat. So we have to coalesce around issues we can agree upon.
So Nan,
and why can't that be the payroll tax cut and infrastructure investment?
Well, all right. So Nan Hayworth, Jared Bernstein, my good friend, is saying that these stimulus packages are really wildly popular, Nan. Wildly popular. Is that true? You really believe that? Is that what the polls are saying?
The components.
I mean, the issue is jobs. Does anybody believe that more more infrastructure spending, the more Solyndra stimulus is going to work, Nan Hayworth. Solyndra stimulus, okay? More clean energy companies. Do people really believe this?
No, and I think Solyndra actually, Larry, is going to be a pivotal point for us because it illustrates, whatever the motivation may have been, it illustrates the futility of the federal government trying to pick winners in business. That's the whole point. We have to get the federal government to step aside and let enterprise take over.
Woo! Jared Bernstein, I'll give you the last word. I just heard a great thought from Nan Hayworth. What's your last thought, Jared? I got about 25 seconds.
I think you and Nan make fine points about long-term structural change. Right now, we have to hammer that unemployment rate down. Larry, we've always agreed on payroll tax cuts. We've always agreed on infrastructure investment. I don't see why you're off that reservation now.
If you could make them permanent, if you could make the payroll tax rate reduction permanent and reform Social Security and Medicare, I'd be with you, Jared. But I got to tell you, I don't believe temporary tax cuts work. I don't think the record shows that. I think people save the money. I don't think it creates permanent
Larry,
incentives.
if you put more money in people's paychecks, Larry, they will spend it.
No, they will
not. This is a 70% consumption economy.
It's
temporary. Jared, it's a 1 year. Exactly. It's a 1 year
Businesses
change in the
have
weather.
10-year horizons and so do individuals.
We need a change in the climate,
Let's
Jared.
reform
That's the
taxes.
problem.
No, I'm with you,
Congresswoman.
Let's reform taxes when this is all behind us, when the unemployment rate is coming down. Right now, let's hammer the unemployment rate with more demand. People need fatter paychecks, and the payroll tax cut will help.
I got to get out.
People are smarter than that, Jared. They need that change.
All right, nobody is smarter than Jared Bernstein. It is not possible that Congressman Nan Hayworth, you're in the game. You're always in the game, and we appreciate you coming back on the show.